What's up, golf addicts? David Barnett of the Tour Junkies. I got Pat Perry with me. He is the rather old fellow in the room as well.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And, it's just a little Tour Junkies After Dark presented by DraftKings. We love doing this. This has been a lot of fun. This is our third episode. The first two were hilarious. Last week, Pat, we spent a lot of time debating on players that actually all ended up playing pretty freaking well. I think I hammered you for Ricky Fowler and Bubba Watson. Ricky obviously went on to win. I missed that one. Bubba played pretty well. You hammered me for Matt Kuchar, and I think Xander Schauffele, maybe? I can't remember who the other guy was.
Yeah, I faded Schauffele, but let's just focus on Ricky, because you know what? You hated some Ricky and he won. Just give me the props I deserve, By the way, my nose is itching. Can you see out my nose? It's really itchy.
I can definitely see your nose. It's huge. I give you the props for Ricky. Good for you. I guess if you keep playing the same top 10 golfer in the world week in and week out, you're bound to hit it every now and then. So good for you. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's called playing the odds.
Excuse me, by the way, if I cough a little bit. I'm having a little.
So you're coughing. My nose is itching. It's good.
Yeah, but you know what though? I am thuggish ruggish. You see this? I don't know if you can read.
You are looking fly. You're looking fly, as the kids say, right?
I mean, this is just the prototypical Tour Junkies. Thuggish, ruggish, hoodie, and Pat is wearing his polo.
No, this is actually a special custom polo. Tweet at us, and I'll tell you all about what it really means. So.
I see it now. I see it now. That's pretty cool. Actually, that is a great story. That's a great story. That's not a polo Ralph Lauren polo.
It is not. It is customized.
And no free ads. No free ads here. We're not trying to do that. Anyway, let's get into this. We have the AT&T Pebble Beach ProAm. Actually, is it AT&T this year?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. AT&T Pebble Beach ProAm from lovely Pebble Beach, California. It is a unique golf tournament. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time breaking down the golf course. Okay, we're going to try to keep this to 20 minutes of a show here for you. We know you can't handle much more, and frankly, I can't either.
I do think it's important, though. You got to talk about how we're back like the Desert Classic. We got 3 courses, and there's going to be a cut after 3 rounds. So these guys are going to get 3 rounds, and then it's going to be top 60 that make it through, not 70, not low 70 like we typically see. So you gotta pay attention to that. And you might take a little more risk this week, because the guys are going to get at least 3 rounds.
Yeah, that is critical to know. Going to get 3 rounds, 4th round played on Pebble Beach. 3 different golf courses, like Pat said. They're all pretty short. It's a Pro-Am format. These guys are playing with celebrities, musicians, rich people, Larry the Cable Guys, Alfonso Ribeiros, Tony Romos, Aaron Rodgers. It's the Bill Murray. It's the famous California Pro-Am with all the shenanigans that go along with it. It's a horrible viewing experience, if I'm honest, but it is what it is. We see it every year, and it's interesting. So Pro-Am, here's what you need to know from a DFS or betting standpoint. They take on there's some unique things about being in a Pro-Am. Number one, the rounds are usually long AF, okay, longer than normal. So this thing could be 6.5-hour rounds. And also the golf courses don't set up as difficult as these guys normally see on the PGA Tour, especially when it comes to the greens and the flag locations, the pin locations. Normally on the PGA Tour, they're tucked in corners. Pro-Ams are usually more in the middle, because you don't want freaking Larry the Cable Guy firing at a tucked back left pin location with a 6-iron, or you'll be here all damn day. So it's a little different there in terms of setup. Patience is required. That's why Bubba Watson and Sergio Garcia aren't here. Also why Pat could never play in one of these. Greens are a little small at Pebble Beach, a little small. Hitting fairways matters. The rough is a little thicker at Pebble right now as they're preparing for the U.S. Open, but do not kid yourself in thinking that Pebble is going to be set up like it will be set up for the U.S. Open. That's not happening. They would not do that to Larry the Cable Guy. So there you go. That's a little bit about the golf course. If you want to hear a more in-depth breakdown, you can check out the Tour Junkies podcast. But Pat, I do want to get one thing out of the way, and that is I'm enjoying a nice Tito's tonight.
So. Nice. No free ads, like you said, right?
True. Okay. Let's get into this. So we actually had a fair amount of agreement. You know, we try to bring to Tour Junkies After Dark the things that we uncover on the podcast that we don't really agree with. But this week we had some agreement, especially near the top range. We had some agreement there. Obviously, ownership's going to be a big deal. But let's get into a couple guys that we disagree on. Pat, I'm going to tell you right off the top, in the 8K range, you did exactly what I thought you were going to do. And that is, there are two players in the 8K range on DraftKings that Pat Perry just can't get enough of. They're the Sally and you're the Harry when Harry met Sally, whatever that. You just cannot get enough of these guys.
You couldn't quite get that one out, could you?
I had a hard time pulling a reference, I got to be honest with you. But you get it.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
and one of them that I don't like is he's actually a former winner here, and that is Brandt Snedeker at $8,200 on DraftKings. Mm-hmm. Now I get it. You're a huge course history buff. Pat loves course history. If you were to walk up to a tree in Pat's backyard, inscribed with a Swiss Army pocket knife would be the little cross thing, and up top you'd have PP for Pat Perry, his initials, and then at the bottom you'd have a CH for course history and then a heart carved around it, because Pat loves some freaking course history, and he will overlook everything else. It will overlook the wart on Brandt Snedeker because of the course history. And I'm not into Brandt Snedeker. I mean, okay, we saw him finish 55th at the Waste Management, 62nd at the Farmers the week before that. You look at the stats on Brandt Snedeker, not hitting fairways if you look in the short term or in the long term. Not a great greens in regulation guy if you look in the short term or the long term. Here's what Brandt Snedeker does. He scrambles well and he putts well. That's it. But when the putting is gone, when the feel is gone, he sucks. And he's been sucking lately. So I'm not buying the Brandt Snedeker at $8,200 Pat Love. You can't. I'm just going to tell you right now, you can't sell me on it, but I know you want to defend yourself.
Here's the thing. Look, with anything, yes, course history is always variable. But here's the deal. He plays here every year. He plays here well every year, I should say, and it's for one of these main reasons, and that is not only putting, but he loves POA greens, and we all know that POA greens are some of the most difficult, squirrely. It's bouncing all over the place. You got to be comfortable on POA greens, and you wouldn't have the course history that he has if you don't like it here. He's won here twice, has a ton of top tens. He's comfortable on the POA greens. I don't care what it looks like as far as the other stats are concerned. When it comes to, it doesn't matter how you get to the greens, but once you get on there, if you hate them and you can't putt on them, then you're just not going to do well out here. But he loves them and he putts well on them. That's the reason I like him, because I think these are just, they're not greens that they play every single week. You know that. These are more West Coast style greens. He plays well on POA greens. So there you go for Sneds. That's the main reason I like him. And I do like that scrambling. And he plays well on difficult courses like Pebble Beach. So there you go. I think you should play him. I don't know why you wouldn't.
Yeah, you didn't convince me. I gave you a lot of reasons why you wouldn't. The only reasons you gave me was he likes POA. I mean, he likes a weed. POA is a weed grass. So because Brandt likes
POA
weed,
is one of those greens that you've got to be used to, and you got to. It's a love him or hate him type thing.
Brandt likes weed, so let's play him. That's the only reason you got. I can't work with that. Do you want to hit me with one, or I got another one for you?
Well, one of the guys that you were big on this week was Adam Hadwin. Now, I can't get behind Adam Hadwin. I liked him last week. I thought he was kind of a sneaky good play. And he did end up making the cut at the Waste Management, but he struggled big time off the tee. Was not very good, sprayed it all over the place. I don't like that price at $8,700. I think it's just too high for him. Yes, he's typically a good putter, but I need to be sold on some Adam Hadwin. I can't, if I think driving accuracy is the key stat. They're going to have these fairways cut a little tighter, a little more U.S. Open-like conditions. I think he's going to struggle here off the tee, and I think that's going to be a problem for old Hadwin. And I'm not like him. I think he's going to miss the cut.
So, so what changed about last week? Because you said you liked him. So what did you not like this? What do you not like about him a week later?
I don't like how he's driving the ball.
Okay. You know what? Here's the deal. Pat, I'm about to school you. Are you ready? You know what you probably need to do, buddy? You probably just need to take your earbuds out. I don't want you to. I don't want you to get a complex here. Okay, I don't want you to get a complex because I'm about to school you. This is a classic case. We're going to educate the listeners here with Pat. Okay, I'm about to get real thuggish ruggish on this episode. Pat is looking at a stat known as strokes gained off the tee, and he's saying that Adam Hadwin sucked at the waste management in strokes gained off the tee, which is it is a stat that takes into account distance and accuracy. Now, a lot of players gain strokes with distance, fewer gain strokes with accuracy, so it is weighted heavily towards distance, okay? Now, just because Adam Hadwin performed poorly at the waste management in strokes gained off the tee does not mean that he wasn't hitting fairways, because actually, Pat, he was tied for 6th in the field at the waste management in driving accuracy, which only measures fairways hit and driving accuracy. So if you're looking at poor numbers in strokes gained off the tee for the Waste Management Phoenix Open, it is because he is a short-knocking son-of-a-gun Canadian. It is not because he couldn't hit the fairways. And we know at Pebble Beach...
you had much wider fairways than it's going to be this week. Much wider fairways.
Ooh, so. We know at Pebble Beach that accuracy being in the fairways... Okay, here's the deal. Weather, we didn't talk about this. Weather doesn't look great. Weather does not look great. It looks wet. It looks a little chillier than usual, and it looks a little windy. If the golf course is as wet as it looks like it's going to play, if your ball is in the fairway, you can play under lift, clean, and place. Anytime you see PGA Tour pros playing under lift, clean, and place, they go low. They throw darts, but being in the fairway is a premium. That's where I think Adam Hadwin is going to crush it. And if you look at him statistically, over the last 12 rounds and over the last 50 rounds, he checks the box in fairways gained. He can get to greens in regulation. He actually scores a decent amount of DraftKings points for a guy who's just kind of a short-knocking Canadian. You know, he's probably like apologizing for every birdie that he makes or whatever. Oh, sorry. But he actually makes a lot of birdies. You know, and with the course history, only played here once in the last 5 years, but he made the cut, finished 39th. I think Adam Hadwin is a great play and a great course fit. You, sir, need to do your homework next time.
No, I don't
T6 in driving accuracy.
I just don't think you're going to see Hadwin play well at all, especially with that price. Too high for him. Much rather dip down below him or go right up there to Shane Lowry, who's one of my favorite plays of the week at 8,800. I'm not a big fan of Hadwin. So,
all right, I got one more I want to hit you with, Pat, and it's another just absolutely predictable Pat pick because now here's what I do know, that about 4 or 5 times a year Pat's going to pick this player, and I can tell you the tournament that he's going to pick him in. And then when he picks him, about half of that time, he is going to be texting me on Friday with a text message about said player just heavy laden with F-bombs that he will never play this player again, right? but inevitably he'll come back to him just like he does Brandt Snedeker, and that is Russell Knox, just below Brandt Snedeker. You brought up Russell Knox at $8,100. Now I must admit, I like Russell Knox even a little more. I like him a little more than Brandt Snedeker, your 2-time defending champion. But I still don't like him enough to jump on the Russell Knox train. Lately, he has not been as accurate. He's normally a short knocker, find the fairway kind of guy. In the last 12 rounds, he is 83rd in this field in fairways gained. 83rd. I'm not a huge fan. I think he's kind of a hit or miss player. But I will say of the 2 guys that I got to hammer you on, I like him a little more than Snedeker. I know that's not a very, convicting attack on you, but we had a lot of agreement on the podcast, so I couldn't really. Snedeker, I vehemently disagree with you on.
Yeah,
Russell Knox, I think,
which is crazy to me considering the course history and everything. But Russell Knox, he's coming in pretty good recent form. Also had a top 15 finish here last year. So I think that, you know, it's one of those things where I like to play him when he's hot. He's been a little bit hot lately. He's usually accurate off the tee. Now, look, maybe what the stats show the last few weeks or whatever you may want to look at is not as accurate, but he is usually pretty accurate off the tee. The guy can score. I think that he's going to have a good week. He's kind of a gut play for me, too. And you know what? There are a lot of those this week, you know, because when you've got, especially the guys we all agree on, actually, the guys, the higher price guys, you got to find some duds this week. I think it does lend itself to a little bit of a studs and duds strategy. And I think he can play Knox, and you know, he can make the cut here, outperform his price. I like him. I like some Knox. I don't know. I don't think he's. Now, I'm probably going to end up like bashing him and cussing his name on Friday, but hey, don't we do that every week with almost, you know, I mean, hell, there's at least one guy every week we're doing that with.
Yeah, Knox is just frequently on that list. All right, you got anybody else for me, or are we moving on?
Let's move on. By the way,
okay.
One guy, actually, I'll say this. Hate Lucas Glover. You love some Lucas Glover this week. Cannot stand him. I'm just not going to play him at all. I just turn the hat on backwards.
I'm going hat backwards on you right here, buddy.
Yeah, just tell me why I should play Lucas Glover coming off of a terrible week last week. Just go. I don't know. I can't get it.
Let me count the reasons why, okay? First of all, if you know anything about Lucas Glover, you know he went home last week after that abysmal performance at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, and his wife literally physically assaulted him, okay? Kicked his ass when he got home. So he's motivated. If anybody's motivated, it's freaking Lucas Glover, all right? He did miss a cut at the Waste Management last week. Now, prior to that, he finished T12 at the Desert Classic. The missed cut last week comes at a 20% on average ownership across DraftKings GPPs. He pissed off a lot of folks last week, okay? Lots of people had Lucas Glover. Lots of talking heads all over Lucas Glover. If you look at the strokes gained data, he just had an off week. When he's going home talking to the wife, when he opened the door on Friday night and the wife's standing there looking more thuggish-ruggish than I can even imagine, and she's tapping her foot, he drops the bag and he says, honey, it was just an off week. The ball striking wasn't there, I promise. It'll come. I'll get it back. I'm working with the TrackMan, with the coaches, all right? If you look at it, he lost strokes off the tee, lost strokes approach, which he does not do. He hasn't done recently. And if you look at the last 5 tournaments, 10 tournaments, 20 tournaments, even the last 160 tournaments, he has not lost strokes off the tee or in approach, okay? But last week, he lost strokes in both. And like Lucas Glover normally does, he sucks with the putter. However, last week he was more sucky at the putter than you could even imagine.
More worse?
Yeah, it was more worse. Now at Pebble Beach, the last time he played here in 2016, in similar conditions as we're about to see this week, he finished tied for 11th. If you look at the stats, he checks a box in fairways gained, short-term and long-term, greens in regulation. He scores DraftKings points. I think $7,700 for a cut maker and a guy who can tee to green, just absolutely beat a golf course to death, especially with ProAm pin placements. Give me Lucas Glover coming off a 20% ownership deal and a bunch of people like you all ticked off. I am all in on Lucas Glover. Hat backwards, all in on Lucas Glover. You're getting 3 rounds out of him.
If I were standing in front of you right now, I'd slap you just like Lucas Glover's wife would. So, that's all I got to say about that. Moving on.
All right. Pat, let's talk about some DraftKings betting odds. What you got, man? Who you like? Who you like on the sports book there, huh? Oh.
Well, here's the thing. You know what?
Wait a minute.
I'm prepared, actually. Yeah, I'm prepared.
Last week we caught him off guard. That's why I want to start with you.
And here's the thing. You know, this tournament's weird. We've got guys like Ted Potter that won last year, Von Taylor that won a couple years ago.
Brandt Snedeker.
No, not Sned. He's a stud. But, you know, yeah, we've got guys like Sned and your DJs of the world who's won a couple times here, your Mickelsons of the world who's won 4 times here. But I think there's a lot that you can do down really with the longer odds. I'm not playing a whole lot of these guys up top. But if you're going to give me a few that I do like, I like some Mickelson at 22-1. I think those are really good odds for a guy who we've seen almost win recently.
Long odds. Where are the long odds?
No, and then I said after that, if you want a couple guys that are up on the shorter odds, then here's a couple guys that I like. And one of them is going to be Mickelson at 22-1. I think that's a very good play for a guy who's coming off, a missed cut, but almost victorious at the Desert Classic, another Pro-Am a few weeks ago. So I like that at 22-1. Also like some Jordan Spieth at 35-1. I think that's very good odds for old Jordan. Has played well here, won here last year, putted very well in his last event at the Farmers. I know he had a pretty bad weekend, but when you look at as far as his putting, he was top 5 in the field in putts per greens in regulation. I like some Jordan Spieth at 35-1. Those are the shorter guys that I like. Now, kind of longer odds. I didn't mention him on the podcast, but I like a little Charlie Hoffman at 90-1. Had a good finish last week with a T20, so coming in pretty good. This is a course I think he can play well on, so I like some Charlie Hoffman. And then the longest odds, this is a guy I did mention on the show, in the 6K range, actually, the upper 6K range on DraftKings, and that is Roberto Castro coming in at 200-1 odds. Has great stats for this course. He's 11th in par 5 scoring. There's a ton of par 5s on these 3 courses that they've got to score on. He's 8th in fairways gained, so he checks the driving accuracy box. And he's got 2 top 20s here at Pebble Beach. So little Roberto Castro at 200-1. He could be that longer odds, that Ted Potter, Von Taylor guy of 2019. So there you go. That's who I got right now. That's who I'm putting in the hopper.
Okay. Well, I mean, if I was going to play shorter odds like a pansy, I might go a little Phil Mickelson. I don't mind that, but, I'm not that. I agree. This is wide open for a long shot. Shortest odds I'm going to go with right now are Kevin Kisner. 66-1 on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I don't like him in DFS, but to throw a unit on him at 66-1, don't mind that at all. He's definitely an accurate player off the tee. He can work the Pro-Am vibe a little bit. He's a laid-back, fun kind of guy. Yes, Pat?
It cracks me every time you want to talk about units. Why don't you just say I want to throw a few bucks on him? You said I want to throw my unit on him.
Well, I definitely don't want to throw my unit on him. I'm saying I will throw a unit on him. Well, Pat, I mean, let's educate the listeners here, right? That's what we're here to do. A unit is a betting term, like my standard bet. So whatever my standard bet is my unit. Now, my unit is going to be different than your unit, which is definitely true in many ways as we talk about units.
Yeah, I'll throw a few dollars on them.
Yeah, but okay, but your unit, your standard bet may be $5. My standard bet may be $50.
So then why do I care about your unit? If your unit's different than my unit, I don't give a crap. What am I comparing it to?
Well, first of all, you're going to get in trouble if you compare your unit to my unit, because I can just tell you right now, you're going to be sorely disappointed in yourself. You're probably going to go to sleep. You're going to go to sleep with your thumb in your mouth in the fetal position, wishing you'd never been born if you do that stuff. But what I'm telling the listener is I'm willing to put a half a unit, a half of my standard bet. So if the listener's standard bet is $10, then, I'm saying I'm willing to put the equivalent of your half unit, your half $10 bet.
All right, well, take your half unit and tell us what else you're going to go with.
I like the longer shots, man. So I like Joel Damon at 125-1. He ticked off a lot of people too last week after missing the cut, but he's an accurate guy, loves golf courses where distance is less of an advantage. For Joel, it's all about keeping it in the fairway, which he does pretty well, and then hitting greens because he sucks chipping. We know Joel. We know his caddy Gino. You don't want Joel greenside with a wedge in his hand. He's liable to chunk it or hit it over the green or something. But I like him at 125-1. And you said Roberto Castro at 200-1. Just give me Von Taylor at 200-1. Previous champion in 2016. checks
There's
the boxes.
no way that Von Taylor. I just spit everywhere. There's no way that Von Taylor's winning this tournament again. Come on, the stars aligned for that.
Oh, but Roberto Castro's going to win it, who barely got off the web.com, like limped his way into the web.com.
Yeah,
I would gladly take Von Taylor's unit over Roberto Castro's unit in a heartbeat. All right, I think we're falling off the rails. I think this means it's time to go. But I like Von Taylor at 200-1, and DraftKings Sportsbook has the top 5 bet, and you can get Von Taylor at a top 5 at 45-1. I like that bet too. Also, depending on what wave he falls on, all that kind of stuff. So 45-1. Those are my guys. That's it. That's all I can do. Enough unit talk, unit discussion. We're gonna hang up. I'm gonna educate Pat on how this thing's done, and try not to embarrass him with unit comparisons.
Okay.
May your screens be green.